Now, here is what Kosovo leader Hashim Thaçi had to say about his expectations from Russia in an interview to the AP.
First, it's very important that Russia was part of every decision until now for Kosovo, part of contact group, part of Ahtisaari document, and part of troika report. And now it's time Russia to continue to be part of international community, part of efforts of US and EU, and not to be alone, isolated, because the process of Kosovo will continue forward and not to stop or to be frozen process. And as you know, since 2 years we discussed many times in Vienna with the troika process too, and we see we cannot find compromise for the political status between Kosovo and Serbia.
So when, or rather if, as you put it, Kosovo declares its independence, how would Russia react to the fact that the US and EU will recognize the independence of Kosovo? Or it's another if.
So if Kosovars declare independence without UN Security Council endorsement, Russia will consider this step as unlegal, as an act or step of violation of UN Security Council Resolution 1244, and of course we will continue to call upon parties, upon international players to get the process back to legal framework.
But,
so it will be the basis of our approach.
But is it right to consider, as many observers do, that the recognition of Kosovo by US and the EU, by the West, will be technical after it happens? Or they may have second thoughts after it happens?
So as far as I know, the USA are ready to recognize independent Kosovo. I can't say no right now. The same about EU position or various positions inside European Union. So we see that still there are a lot of differences, nuances.
In Europe?
In Europe.
Well, like
in
Spain,
Europe,
Greece, Romania, they are hesitant, are they?
So there are a number of states which continue to call against recognition of Kosovo independence. There are numerous states that perhaps that they are forced to agree to keep themselves in line with EU approach, but we know that in the back of their mind they would prefer if Kosovo would not declare independence and if negotiating process continues.
Because they are afraid of the precedent that it may create in Europe, is that right?
Yes, first reason. The second reason, very important for the European Union. Majority of EU member states prefer to launch EU mission in Kosovo if there is legal ground or Security Council endorsement. And so, of course, in absence of UN Security Council decision, the launching of EU mission will not be legal, and so it will make a lot of problems for EU member states.
Okay, let's hear another quote, and actually it is the position of the Serbian government expressed by Foreign Minister Vuk Jeremić.
Serbia is going to do everything that is in our diplomatic power, legal power, economic power, political power, to make sure that this decision that would constitute a flagrant breach of our Constitution, flagrant breach of the UN Security Council Resolution 1244, flagrant breach of the UN Charter, flagrant breach in each and every rule of the modern international architecture of international order is reversed, impeded, and not brought into actuality.
So how would you comment on that?
firstly on Serbian approach during negotiating process. So I don't agree that Belgrade has not changed its position in course of negotiations. So there were a lot of elaborations of this position within the principal frame of sovereignty, of keeping sovereignty over Kosovo, or the so-called in the frame of broad or substantive autonomy. But Belgrade really made a lot of elaborations. Its position was in a process of evolution. So Belgrade reduced its competences or its powers to, may I say, minimum level. And so they declared its readiness to grant a lot of competences for Pristina. In fact, Belgrade proposed the highest level of self-governance for Kosovo during these negotiations. In addition, Belgrade tabled or suggested for discussions well-known models of Hong Kong and Elland Islands. Of course, not to be used automatically on Kosovo soil, but to be considered in course of discussion, having in mind that these two models are well-functional models.
Well, let's get back to the functioning of the troika. Many people that were following your work had an impression that the work in the troika was actually like a muscle flexing between Moscow on the one side and your Western partners, the US and the EU, on the other side. Was it really so? How was it looking from the inside? Or you were like working all three all together to find a solution? Or there was sort of a confrontation inside this negotiating body?
So in fact, basically we had a lot of discussions without parties in the troika, intensive, extremely difficult discussions given different position of our governments, but I believe we managed to keep in line. We managed to work hand in hand. So we, in the beginning of our mission, we managed to produce several basic principles of our activities. And so it was, in fact, it was surprise. It was surprise having in mind huge confrontation in the Security Council before the Troika process was launched. And personally, I was surprised. We managed to reach the common ground. And from the beginning up to the end, we as Troika managed to keep in line. And so it is additional achievement of the Troika process.
So, Your Excellency, you didn't feel yourself, when you were out there discussing the matter in the Troika, you didn't feel yourself as being at the forefront of the new Cold War or something?
No, I don't.
You didn't have such recollections that here we are again, like 20 years ago.
So I believe we no. It is there is evident disagreement over Kosovo future status between Russia on one side and US and EU on the other, but so the Troika process is example. We could cooperate. We could cooperate, and we could find common basis of the settlement.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And just to remind you that our guest today was Aleksandr Botsan-Kharchenko, the Russian representative in the Kosovo negotiating troika and Russian foreign minister's special representatives for the Balkans. And that's it for now from all of us here. If you want to have your say on Spotlight, or have someone in mind who you think I should interview next time, please drop me a line at algorithm@rttv.ru. We'll be back tomorrow with more first-hand comments on what's going on in and outside Russia. Until then, stay in Russia today and take care. Спасибо.